computer. Okay. Alrighty, well, thank you guys for being here. Today we're just doing a soft introduction to the Social Justice Book Club presented by UNCC Psi. To get started, as far as just UNCC Psi, we are starting a houseless drive. We're going to run it all throughout the entire semester, and we wanted to do a customer service project that everyone could be included with. And I believe at the moment we are just going to focus on the Camino Center, which is a really cool community center right down the street from UNC Charlotte. It's mostly focused on the Latino population, but it helps anyone in the area that needs it. They have a lot of different aspects, a lot of different buildings, and a lot of different ways that they help people. They have a health center, a community wellness center where they do like exercises. I know they have Zumba classes, which is a lot of fun. They have a thrift store where they sell and resell a lot of really cool stuff. And then they also have a food bank where they hand out any food that they collect, and they also hand out like whole grocery bags. They do like an entire shopping cart per family based on how big the family is. So since we can't go in person really and help them run any of their stations, we want to be able to help supply them to the best of our ability. So later on, we'll send out an email with their location, what exactly you can drop off, and maybe even where to drop it off and who to talk to. And then throughout the semester, we are going to, as the e-board, we're all going to do our own part and share that with you guys. And we'd love for you guys to share that with us. And we'll share more information on that later. But for now, I'd like to introduce Tevin Williams and Marvine Fulton. They're going to be the main presidents of the Social Justice Book Club, and they're going to introduce the club to you guys.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tevin Williams, and I'll let Marvine introduce herself, and then I'll go over kind of a little outline of what we have planned for today. I'll just start off by saying I'm a second year in the master's program of psychology and the general master's program, and my focus is in cognitive psychology. So that's just a little about me.
Hello, I'm Marvine, and I'll be working with Tevin to get this off the ground and hopefully create something that will live long past us going onto our careers.
So just to start things off, I thought it would be nice if everyone is okay with introducing themselves. Just like introduce yourself, explain why you came today, and a little bit like what you're hoping to get out of this program. Yeah. Does anyone want to go first, or?
I'll go first. I'm Julia. I'm a second year student in the master's program in the community concentration. And I'm interested in this club to see like what we can do within the department or at UNC Charlotte to promote social justice in psychology or in whatever way we see fit. So I'm excited.
I'm super excited to have you. When Tevin mentioned you having this concentration in racism studies, I thought, oh, please let her come. That's what we need. We need that kind of guidance. We need that kind of seat on the board permanently. Someone who that is their focus, that is their life's passion. So that's I really hope that I really look forward to working with you.
I can go next. My name is Amanda Kelly. I prefer to be called Mandy. I am a junior. I have also hold the secretary position for the executive board for Psi, and I hope to contribute a lot to the Social Justice Club. I'm looking forward to discussing some of these harder concepts, some things that maybe some people don't really understand. I just had a conversation with a woman, for example, who shared a meme that said, sisters, not cis, CIS-ters. and didn't understand, like, what does that mean? Like, why can't she just be called a woman? And I had to explain, well, this is what it means. This is the definition. And these people who identify as women want to be called women. And the only reason why we have these differences is because of discrimination and bigotry. And we use these terminologies for social justice. So I'm looking forward to having these like hard conversations and just to see how far education can go on the UNCC campus.
Yeah, I can go next. My name is Kaylin Alexander. I am the president of UNCC Psi. I am in my first year of grad school. I'm doing a counseling program. And so I'm really excited to be a member of this club because social justice and advocacy is a big part of the program that I'm in. It was the main reason why I chose to stay at UNCC for grad school. And I think it's a really important topic. And I think it's something that a lot of people aren't often comfortable talking about. And there's not a lot of spaces where you can talk about it. So I think it'll be really cool to be part of a group that makes that space to have those discussions and bring those topics to light.
Hey everyone, my name is Ethan Morrow and I'm the treasurer of Psi, and I'm here today to try to figure out what exactly the social justice book club is going to be operating for, and I'd like to learn a lot from this and perhaps be a member someday.
My name is Liz. I'm in training to be the marketing chair for Psi next year, which is exciting. I'm a sophomore. And I mean, I can think of multiple reasons why I was so interested when I heard about this. But some of the top ones would just be having a minor in anthropology. That was definitely something that opened my mind a lot. And also, I think everyone wants to believe that they personally don't contribute, to racism in their own way. And I mean, I know at the end of the day, it's a systemic thing, but also at the end of the day, being someone, even though I feel like I've talked about this a little too much, but I'm half Asian, but I'm very white passing, and just being able to understand the privilege that comes with being white passing, and again, have those uncomfortable conversations, especially, as it becomes such a bigger thing at my age. People are posting about it on social media and it can get overwhelming. It can get uncomfortable, but I feel like those are exactly the reasons why I need to put myself in this position, because, these conversations should be uncomfortable, especially for someone like me. And it's also just nice to have it'll be nice to have the same consistent group of people that we'll share our thoughts with and hopefully grow together. And just, we all have different perspectives, different experiences. So I think it's a really neat thing. And I know it's not just for Psi, but a good amount of these people are in, psychological studies, and if not, liberal arts related things. So not that it's limited to those, but I definitely think those perspectives, it just makes a good group, and I'm really excited.
So I'm guessing Dr. Chiarella and I should introduce ourselves as well. So I'm Professor Burke. I'm a psych professor for those who don't know me, but I recognize almost everyone. So I'm really excited to be in this club as well. And I know a lot of other faculty members are interested as well. For when we start, I think is it March 11th, on a Thursday from, I think, 12 to 1. So we'll be spreading the news because I think a lot of other professors would be interested in joining too. And I think it would be a really great safe space, like so many of you were saying, for all of us to talk through, podcasts, books, articles, whatever everyone wants to bring to the table. I think we're going to be quite flexible with that, especially during the pandemic. I know there's been some responses that maybe books are a little too much with everything else that you all are doing. I see some head nods. Yeah. So I totally get that. And I think podcasts, are wonderful. There are so many wonderful ones. I don't know if you all have listened to the ones that the Social Justice Committee sent out to the psych department in that social justice newsletter, but those are amazing too. So there are so many. Have you guys gotten that newsletter yet?
I did, and I saved it to our folder online.
Oh,
But I
maybe.
have not read it all the way through yet. But what I
Oh.
did read, the first part of it looked really great.
Yay. Well, I'm guessing that maybe not everyone has gotten it yet. I guess some people did and some who didn't get the newsletter. Oh boy. Okay. So Dr. Chiarella, maybe you and I should mention this to Dr. Montenegro.
Kiddos, check again. No, I know you're getting bombarded, and I know now is not the time to be overwhelmed. But yeah, actually, while you're talking about it, Professor Burke, let me double check and see if that went out on. I didn't send it out, but on the psychology student list. So, and that listserv is for all the majors. So, like Keelan, you may have been booted off at this point. But the rest of you should have received it. But I mean, I'll do a quick check while we're talking here. No, go ahead.
Who's next?
Oh, or should I be next?
Oh yeah, you can be next.
As I often do. Right. Kiddos, just to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Chiarella. Just to give you a little bit of, my multicultural background and my passion for multiculturalism and beyond, because when I say culture, to me, culture is not just about ethnicity. So it's everything, right? And I think most of us share that view, but my mother's from Cuba. My father's from Bolivia. I was first generation born in the United States. And by crazy coincidence, I was born and raised in a small town in Iowa that has a very strong Dutch heritage, like to the point where, I have Dutch dresses, there's Dutch architecture, there's Dutch food, there's bumper stickers growing up saying, if you ain't Dutch, you ain't much, okay? And so culture became very quickly apparent to me. And it kind of became this life mission of how can I be, like a cross-cultural communicator to facilitate understanding, right? So there were a number of different ways that I thought professionally I could do that. And I decided my passions ended up in psychology and counseling and multicultural psychology. So that's what my PhD is in, and mostly working with research, therapy, and assessment with Latinos, Latinx, Latinow. Don't mean to be exclusive, but there's some major issues with all of that. I don't know that we know what to call ourselves these days. Yes, so I am very excited about this energy and momentum. And after 10 years at UNCC and serving on a diversity committee years ago when I first got here, this is the most excitement, and especially on the part of student involvement, that I've seen in all of this time. So, my heart is just leaping. So I'm sorry that I've not been able to attend a number of the meetings, and life is a little crazier than usual for me right now, but my heart and my applause is with all of you, and I will do as much as I can to be supportive and participatory in this group. So thank you.
Okay, was everyone able to introduce themselves?
I didn't go yet. I can go. Sorry, my camera's not on. But my name's Courtney. I'm a senior at UNCC, and this is my first semester in the Psi, so I'm a little new. But I really am excited for this book club. I do think that I am a white woman, so obviously I don't have the knowledge of what it's like to be in certain different races and ethnicities in America and what you experience on a daily basis. But I do think I can bring something to the table with being someone that can be an ally instead of not an ally, if that kind of makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, you know,
Very important. Yes, can't
Yeah.
do it without you.
right. So yeah, but I am really excited for it. I do think podcasts are a great idea because reading books during the semester is not my favorite thing to do when I already have to read books during the semester. So podcasts are a good idea. I'm excited.
For Haley who just joined, we're just doing introductions. If you would like to introduce yourself, and say, for the Social Justice Club, like why you're interested in being a part of it. And if not, that's completely fine. We can continue on to the next part of the meeting. Okay. We can, so for the next part, I'm just gonna start an open conversation about what I'm kind of looking out to get out of this organization. And then we can go around, and anyone else who would like to share what they're hoping to get most out of the organization in terms of like the first things that we start to discuss and what we want to gain from those works or pieces that we discuss. So for me, I'm realizing that everyone is probably in different kind of phases of their journey of understanding and learning about social justice, and I'm in a different phase, and Julia, and so on and so forth. And so I'm actually going to lean as much as Julia will allow to gain some of the knowledge that she has, because I know that she has a lot of knowledge that I don't have, and I would greatly appreciate her guidance and kind of sharing and clarifying things that might come up. But for me, my hope is to everyone's able to learn something new each, maybe not necessarily each meeting. The hope would be each meeting, but at least some point during the semester that you're able to gain some new, a significant amount of new information regarding social justice, regardless of where you are in your journey right now. So for some, that might be a lot more than it is for others, but as long as everyone is learning something and being able to walk away from the meeting or from the organization at the end of the semester, being further in their social justice journey than when they started, that's my hope for the works and the topics that we discuss. So I'll leave it open, but I will say for like when we're choosing topics and thinking about things to discuss, I would think it would be nice to keep that in mind as we're going over works.
Yeah, I agree. That's definitely, my goal is to learn more. And at the end of this, to be more comfortable speaking about uncomfortable things. That's especially hard as, as a whenever a white lady, it gets to be hard. It feels uncomfortable. And I know it should be uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean it should stay this uncomfortable. It should be something that, we can talk about because we need to do that in order to get the change. So I hope to grow and learn and be able to do this better.
And if I can add one thing too, I think it's important. I'm always constantly reflecting on how I think the goal to be an ally is just that it's a goal. I'm not sure I can ever call myself an ally, right? I think it's something that I'm constantly trying to be, but I think it's something that's going to take lifelong work, lifelong learning, more and more reading, more and more understanding, more and more conversations. So I think that to become an ally, I think we have to realize this is a lifelong thing. So like Marvin, you're saying, as a white woman, same for me, right? I think it's something that I'm constantly going to have to work at. And for those who don't know too, I have a daughter who is multiracial. And so a lot of the work that I've been doing too is understanding how to raise a child and respect her identity, respect my identity, and learn how to basically put her out into the world. that's going to be so scary. And how to make sure that I can protect her as much as I can, but also understand that she's going to go through a lot of pain. And I think acknowledging that, recently I saw something that said, if Black and brown children experience discrimination at a young age, then we should be teaching white children at a young age about discrimination. And so I think that also keeping all of this in mind, we can start to teach the younger generations as well. So my hope is to take what we learn in this group and to pass it on, right? To talk to our family, talk to our friends, talk to those people who we really don't want to talk to sometimes. I have several of those people in my life, and I know how much energy it takes, but I think it's important so that they understand the conversations that we're having.
And I'll just, I mean, I'm not trying to speak on behalf of anybody, but I just want to acknowledge that, I mean, I don't think, I mean, our humanity in all of this, the psychology and humanity of all of this, nobody's finished, nobody's done. Just because you were born with certain labels that were later ascribed to you doesn't mean that you totally know what you're doing or all that other stuff. I was talking to my brother the other day about our college experiences, and this was 25 years ago. He was in a big business class at our college, which was 40 some students. And the professor said, and provocatively said, who here is racist? And my brother just immediately raised his hand. He looked around. He was the only student with his hand up, and he was the only student who was of a minority background, right? So I mean, it's just, and I mean, again, he's not a blatant racist. He's just aware that we're all going through the processes, right? And so his teacher kind of winked and told him to put his hand down. And it's just a reality of all of our growing potential. So I appreciate this group for that.
I think for me, I would like to have a more regular place and space to come discuss issues that we see either nationally or even just locally, and kind of flesh out those issues and talk amongst ourselves to figure out, even if it's just how we feel about it, to how can we do something about it. That's one thing I would like to get out of this, and to help. I know because some of us like aren't going to be here, like maybe even in the fall. So getting the club itself a strong foundation so that it'll continue to move forward and eventually go from, or have different aspects of what the programming is, or whether it's discussion and decompression space, to, okay, let's put some action behind what we've been talking about. So I'd really love to help with and see more concrete action plans, because I know that can be hard with any kind of club on a university campus. Like, what do we do? How do we measure our success? That type of thing. So that's what I would like to see and help with.
As a white male, I'm very inexperienced in the matters of social justice, and I would like to grow my understanding and broaden my views and understand what the world is like from varying perspectives. And it's definitely been a change from going from a high school in a small rural town to a rather diverse university. And I have learned a lot, and I'd like to continue learning. Try to approach each day to enlighten my understanding. And it's, as I believe Dr. Burke said, it's a never-ending process, and it's active awareness of how I think and ways I can improve.
That's such a good point about coming from a small rural town, because I mean, you tend to see that a little more often being where we are. And I know I didn't necessarily grow up in a small town, but I will say the school I went to was very, very white. And not only that, they were very, very well off. It was a very most, if not all of the people, except for me, because my mom taught there. So that's why I went there, even though I wasn't zoned for there. It was a very well-off neighborhood. So especially coming to college, and UNC Charlotte too, like UNC Charlotte isn't just a small little private school. Like it's big, and there's a lot of different kinds of people here. So I really like that point, because that's not like, you still get at UNC Charlotte a lot of people who are from those small towns, or maybe went to a school similar to what I experienced, pretty much everyone at that school shared the same political beliefs. Everyone at that school shared the same religion, went to the same church every Sunday. So that's such a good point, because especially coming to college, like even though I feel like I should know more at this age, I don't. It's crazy how much I'm learning. And I thought I already knew, but I didn't.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing, adding on to what both of you just said, is to maybe our goal could be to emphasize that people are coming from different places in their knowledge, and that once they have whatever knowledge that we share with each other, that there are different things that you can do to be socially justice minded and active. Like not everybody needs to be protesting in the street, because that's not what everyone is comfortable with, or maybe isn't their calling. So that could be another thing that we emphasize, that there are different ways to participate in movements. So you could be a protester, you could be a researcher. They're just different ways. You could be part of educating others. So I think that would be good too, to emphasize, so that more people feel comfortable even participating.
Yeah, that makes me think about something too really quickly. So I love stand-up comedians. Like I just have an obsession because life is hard. So sometimes I just want to turn on some Kevin Hart and just, relax. But actually I was watching this one comedian and I don't remember her name. Maybe somebody here can does anyone here like stand-up comedy? So, okay, what's her name? Oh my gosh, like Nina maybe, but she's a lesbian comedian from Australia, I think, or New Zealand. You know who I'm talking about? Some people do, some people don't. Okay, I wish I
I
could.
can't remember the name either, but I can see her in my head.
Right? Okay, so she's hilarious. She's one of my favorite comedians. And she talks about how, as a lesbian woman, she never felt like she fit into the LGBTQ culture because she wasn't somebody who went to the parades. She never felt like she was somebody who could do all that, stuff in the parade. Like that wasn't her. She seems to be a little bit more introverted. And she talks about how, in mainstream lesbian culture, she always felt like she almost didn't fit in. And I think, Julia, to speak to what you were saying, I think a lot of people feel like if they're not protesters, that they're helpless, right? That they can't do much. And so I love your idea of making everyone aware that you don't have to fit this one type, right, of person. And I think that's what that comedian reminded me too. Like, just because we don't feel like, we're the parade going type or the protesting type or whatever, you may feel like, there's so many different avenues for opportunities. So thank you for making that point, Julia. I guess mine was a little bit roundabout with the comedian, but I hope it tied in.
Are there any other things that people are hoping to would like to be on the priority, like a priority that they would like to get out of this organization? Okay. If not, or if you think of some things, feel free to and we can always go back and revisit. If not, then we can kind of move on to the next part of the meeting, which I was thinking would be about discussing the first kind of work that we'd like to go over for the first meeting on March 11th. And so there are multiple ways we could do this, but one is just what type of works that would we like to cover as a group? I know we talked about podcasts being one, maybe possibly finding a documentary that is available or some sort of video, not necessarily documentary, that is available to everyone. So hopefully, preferably on YouTube or something, so you don't necessarily need to have a Netflix account or something to watch it. And maybe going over that. maybe, of course, smaller articles, smaller like research articles, or because books could be a lot, especially for this first, like maybe a book might be better in the fall, but a book could be a lot right now, or maybe like a smaller work. There could be some small books that are only like 50 to 70 pages or something. But does anyone have any ideas that they're thinking about? I am currently, I have some ideas, but I'll let other people share if they'd like to.
I have an idea about incorporating books. Like for those of us who are in reading intensive classes, it's not that we're disinterested, right? It's just that we don't feel like we have time. And what if, just a thought, if somebody were to have that time, say like for example during the summer, I don't take classes. That's me time. So I would, offer and take it upon myself to read some of these books and then maybe give like a presentation, like these are the talking points. This is the information from that book. So the information is still coming out, it's still being circulated, the lessons are still being learned, but not everybody has to spend time, reading it because some of these books are lengthy. Just
That's
thought.
such a good idea. I'm really behind that. And maybe not even the summer, but if anyone wanted to, I mean, I could see myself being interested in that if I found the right book that I felt comfortable enough to share with others. Like, that'd be a really good idea for, maybe someone reads a book and, others are more than welcome to join in, but it's not, an obligation. And then they can come to the meeting and open up that discussion and have, materials ready to do so. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, also we can split it up, get like if there's a crew of us who have some availability, split up the book, like, hey, XYZ reads 1 through 5 chapters and so on. So then again, it's not such an overload of information. And then those 3 characters or whomever are participating can have a discussion of that. And that way that information is, better generated.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful about the a way to still be able to cover books but not have it be so overwhelming, or something that like there's a lot of energy at the start, but then as the semester gets realer and you're starting to like, then it can kind of fall out, whereas this is like a good way of kind of making sure that that doesn't happen, especially if you're responsible for, or maybe even if it's just like 2 or 3 people, so 2 or 3 people read chapters 3 or 4, and then like, so that way you're still able to cover a large amount of chapters but not feel so overwhelmed. Yeah, are there any other types of works that people are interested in outside of like podcasts, books, articles, videos?
What about poems too, like poetry, like Clint Hill and oh gosh, Cleo Wade, kind of like more, I think, relatable to the younger generations as well, which might be helpful. So I don't know if everyone's into poetry, but maybe just here and there, just an idea.
That makes me also think of, and this could be a little out there, but how would people feel about like art? Or that could be pushing in a different direction, but I'm thinking more of like artists that are known to be social justice forward or political. Maybe like if and could be an easier, not an easier way, but like a lighter week where you just kind of listen to this album and think of something, or look at these set of works or these photographs that were taken and kind of published. Like, would that be something that people are interested in?
That really made me very excited. Some pieces of art, you can't separate them from the history from which they're reflecting. They are. We can learn so much. I mean, we're just looking at it, but there's also like what was going on around them in their lives, what was going on in the world. I think it really could open up a lot of conversation. And it's a lot easier to talk about the past first and establish that ground, and then draw those connections to what's still happening now, what has not been fixed, what needs to happen next. So I think that it's a great place to start. And there's a lot of great artists, and not enough, minority artists get the recognition that they should. They're not talked about enough, and their art is amazing.
I've also always found that art, for me at least, can get to a point of emotional understanding that words just don't reach. And I'm sure there's a lot of impressionist art out there that I would love to see. And I personally don't know where a lot of collections and stuff would be like that, but if it's made available, I'd love to be a part of it.
I actually took a class last semester. So one of my majors is philosophy, and we did an aesthetics class. And because of the Black Lives Matter movement that was really powerful last year, we focused more on that. And I can like give somebody a list of a lot of artists that have a lot of social justice art that we could go over and stuff if anyone's interested in that.
Okay. So if anyone has any other ideas that they'd like to go back and add, we can do that later or now. Yes. Mandy, did you have something? Okay.
I did have an idea, and I was just kind of fleshing it out while we were having that discussion, which is why I didn't mention it before. But what if we introduce a concept also about cultural relativity and what it means to what social justice looks like in different parts of the world? I'm also an anthropology major, and that's a concept that we are constantly discussing. Like, whereas here we might see something as a form of subjugation, somewhere else that is a form of freedom of expression, So I feel like maybe that could be a topic that we discuss at a future meeting.
Yeah, definitely. Before I go on to the next point, Julia, did you have anything that you wanted to add to this part, or?
No, I really like all these creative ideas because I really feel like a lot of times we feel limited in how we can engage in some of this stuff. Like we feel like since we're in school and tend to do research, if we don't research a topic, we can't really share our thoughts on it. So I really like the ideas y'all shared and making everything accessible to students and whoever comes to the meetings and engages with us, and kind of taking the content that we cover, taking it out of the very rooted academic way of viewing things as having to be solely research based, and using the lots of different kinds of media that are available to us, like podcasts and art and things like that. I think that's really cool.
Okay, so I guess now we can kind of go about discussing the first kind of work that we would like to cover. I'm thinking of multiple ways to do this, but one could be like I need to come up with something that we could submit like ideas to, and then we maybe come up with a poll after all the ideas have come in, and then vote on that poll and kind of go or kind of have like, I guess before that, should we discuss whether we want it to be like a podcast or an article, or like what we want the work to be, and then we kind of submit ideas about the work and then vote on the work. So again, this is kind of open. So if anyone has other things that they would prefer, if they definitely don't want it to be a documentary or something like that, that's fine as well. But yeah. Does anyone have preferences about what the first work that we would discuss on March 11th should be?
I've been pushing podcasts, but now I want to do art. I really do. So, like, Courtney, I believe that was your idea you were talking about. So you mentioned that you have you have some material, maybe some artists already.
Yeah, I could definitely go back because like art was one of the main things that we talked about in that class. So I could go back and look and some of them I do remember, but I can just go back and look and make a list and I do think art's a good way to start because it's something that is simple yet can spark many conversations. So I do think that's a good idea.
We had a Google form at one point to ask people who are interested in being members. So I just changed one of the questions to what would you like our first focus to be on? And I just put the link to the Google form in the chat. So if you guys want to fill that out, and then Tevin, you can use it later on to make the poll about which they would prefer.
How would people also feel about, again, not trying to overwhelm people, but doing art and a podcast, or would it be better to just for the first meeting just stick with like one or the other?
I say one.
One.
Yeah, I say one.
Okay.
Maybe
I think
we,
because it's sorry.
oh, you're fine. I was just gonna say maybe we can every time we have a meeting have one or two or three options for whatever it is, or that may make things confusing, but maybe we could focus more on the topic and find media on whatever topic it is, and then people can choose which one they want to look at, just so maybe so it's a little less like a homework assignment, and maybe it'll spark some ideas for people to bring more to the meeting. And maybe just because with how fast the world moves, it could be beneficial for us to kind of go general topic by general topic, and then as current events come up related to that topic, we can add our thoughts to in based on that. I don't know.
I really support what Julia just said. Presenting like maybe different forms under one topic uh, can also help those who suffer from mental illnesses participate. You know, maybe I'm overwhelmed and I am, you know, going through a cycle of depression and I just can't read, or, you know, reading an article is just too much, or listening to a podcast and I'm overtly sensitive is just not going to work. So viewing art though, that worked. That was something that I could participate in. And, you know, one of the concepts that Julia has perpetuated is that, you know, recognizing that we are, you know, we can contribute to these spaces, and that it doesn't have to look any particular type of way, and aligning with that ideology would be introducing these different layers, you know, of media, so that while it does fall under the same topic and we can all provide, you know, to the discussion, it's not, you know, in a sense overwhelming to maybe our mental state.
And another thing that I think that could be interesting in building off of that is like, say if you have like maybe three things that are all under the same topic, and maybe it's just like just try and consume one of them by the meeting, and then that way they're still available to go back afterwards. So you're kind of covering a wider amount of information, but it's not like all of these things have to be consumed by the meeting. So if someone just wants to listen to the podcast, that's fine. And then they can share what they thought about the podcast while another person shares about their experience with the art. And as long as they're kind of related, you're still gaining information. And then afterwards, after people kind of explain what they thought, you're like, oh, that's interesting. And you can go back and look at the things that you didn't have a chance to look at. Would that be something that people are interested, or would it be better to just kind of focus on one? Or
I think that's a good idea, and I'm also now wondering, this may be more work, but I'm now wondering if the newsletter should be um, indicating what we'll be talking about at the next meeting, so that it sort of ends up acting as an archive for students as they receive the newsletter, so that if there are three different things in the newsletter, that like a podcast, a piece of art, and an article, and someone only gets to look at the podcast. They can go back later and access the other works easily and then reflect on them on their own. So that's one option, that the newsletter would serve as an archive, and then we have all of our materials in one place. And then I'm also thinking that we could just pick one. Well, we could just pick a topic for this next discussion, and just, I feel like consistency with meeting will be important, so that people will feel like they can come in whenever and aren't left behind. So the newsletter will be important for distributing, so that people have something to look at if they join late or whatever.
I really liked the idea of offering, several different things, because I had not thought of that before, of having like an auditory issue where that's not what's best for you to consume. Giving those choices, and then everyone gets to talk about what they were excited about, what struck them, something new that they learned, and we could all come together and share that. And that may spark the person then to read that thing or watch that thing or look at that thing, and then they will talk about it next time. So I think it could really help. I think that's an amazing idea that could really help keep conversations going.
I think it'll also allow for much better conversation. Because I mean, whatever, even if not saying you need to bring a lot, and if you don't bring a lot, then you need to do something else. But, if maybe one thing, like, you just don't necessarily have anything you took away from it, but then another thing it does. And again, I'm not saying everyone has to like do all of them, but, and not only that, just with all of us doing different things, I feel like as long as they're on about the same topic, it'll just create really good conversation. So I second everyone else. I think this is a really great idea.
So in that case, I know it'll be March, and it won't be Black History Month, but it will be Women's History Month in March. Do we want to use the newsletter that was distributed as our first, like the things covered in the newsletter, as our first topic of discussion? And as we distribute, or as Tevin distributes the Google form and we collect responses from people, we can see what future participants want to talk about for future meetings. And then we'll have like a little arsenal or archive of what we can cover in the future, just so we're not like creating more work for ourselves. The newsletter's there, and I know I haven't looked at it in depth yet because I just saw the link, but that may be an easy, like a smooth start for us.
Yeah, that was the first thing I said when I looked at the newsletter was, this is where our social media posts could come from. Very easy to just kind of pick it out of there and make social media posts, which Liz has created for us. Thank you, Liz. They're completely blank right now. we were going to be getting some things on them. We're going to all be creating stuff, right?
Profile picture. And I need help with Facebook. I am not able to navigate Facebook. I don't know what I'm doing, but we got the usernames.
All right.
Honestly, guys, I don't know if we need to use Facebook. I don't know. From all my students, like, I think I'm the oldest one on Facebook. I don't think anybody's really on Facebook from Generation Z, are they? I don't know. That's just what my students have been telling me. Do we need a Facebook, do you think? Or do you think maybe Instagram is mostly, maybe we need a TikTok? No, I'm just kidding.
I use Facebook, but honestly, I do think that a lot of people are more on Instagram. I think that will give you more followers instead of trying to figure out Facebook.
I have a question about YouTube then. We want this to be a safe space where people can come and talk. So, do we want to record what our future meetings? people be like, oh, well, I missed the meeting and we always have great conversations, but yeah, there's no room for error if it's going to go on YouTube. So yeah, I see a lot of head shaking no. So yeah, Julie, thank you. I was thinking of that earlier when someone asked for like a recording of this meeting, and I thought, I didn't ask for Liz to create a YouTube, and I thought, I don't know, yeah, we want a safe space, so no YouTube.
Maybe
Right.
YouTube is the long-term goal.
Yeah, maybe if we really get it down, like if we start noticing, like, wow, we're getting intellectual.
Yeah.
Then we can. But for now, especially not the first meeting, that might be a little.
Yeah.
But I still think that's a good long-term goal.
Yeah.
We're creating our
Well,
own podcast.
And it's a thought, maybe. This doesn't, I mean, I'm with whatever we want to do. But a potential thought could be to kind of, verbalize a little quote unquote disclaimer at the beginning, right? About maybe saying something about personal conversations, or I haven't thought it through yet, but I mean, maybe there's a kind of a good line to use that gives us the freedom to express ourselves and, maintains that safe space and doesn't put us at risk or jeopardy. There's a number of things to think through. but I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm fully supportive of what you want to do, and I can see, kind of both sides to the possibilities.
Yeah, I could see recording the sessions down the road, especially if maybe eventually there's a speaker series and we want to hear from more knowledgeable professionals in the different topics that we discuss, then I could really see a good reason for recording, and then we put that on the YouTube, sort of like a lot of organizations are doing for their webinars now. They're recording them and putting them on their YouTube. One last thing about Facebook too, I feel like we don't have to put so much special event recordings. I think we should still have a Facebook, and that could maybe serve as the club's web page, where there's a lot more in-depth information about like a lot of the things we talked about today, our goals, the kinds of activities that we engage in, but then maybe our more active posting and things are on Instagram or Twitter, and then we can just dump them on the Facebook, so there's a little bit less to do with that.
Julia, are you graduating this year, or will you be? Oh no, we're losing Julia, Marvin, and Tevin this year. Oh my goodness. Okay, just to keep in mind. Oh no,
we don't have to think about that yet. Let's stick to like 2 or 3 weeks out. That's about as far as I can think at the moment.
I get that completely. Okay, well, I'll just keep this in mind for the future. And I know, Liz, you're interested, right, in continuing next year on the board of this club?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. And if anyone else is interested in joining Liz too, what I was gonna say is, if Tevin and Marvin, if you guys can, I'm trying not to say you guys. Growing up in New Jersey, that's like the y'all. So in New Jersey, everyone says you guys, and I'm trying to like train myself. But I can't say y'all, I'm just not Southern enough for it. So you all, I'm hoping maybe Liz can train under Marvin and Tevin for continuing. And if anyone else is interested, I don't know, Mandy, if you said you were interested too, I forget, but you might have. No pressure. I just have a horrible.
I am. And I think it'd be really cool because, Liz and I have kind of started this together, like from the induction day. Like we've been
Anthropology.
We even like match our sweaters. Like I just feel like you're my 20, and I just, I definitely want to, pursue this alongside Liz, and, social justice is important. And I participate in our community. I've marched and have done so, and I was there when everyone got kenneled, and like I know what it's like to face brutality and violence and discrimination. I grew up in Idaho. I was the only brown person in my class, and when like you said, Dr. Burke, children experience discrimination and therefore need to be taught about that. And because I was the only brown child in my class, I did hear a lot of ignorant slang terms directed towards me, even though I am not Black, but they didn't get that. They just thought, oh, you're brown. So, and this is a word I can use to, subjugate you. So, I understand, and I definitely want to be a part of this club. It means a lot to me.
Well, that's honestly wonderful to hear. And I know I'll be continuing, obviously, because I don't graduate. This is kind of my job now. So, but I'm really sad that you all are leaving us. But I'm happy that Liz and Mandy will be continuing. So Tevin and Marvine, if maybe they could be included in future meetings too with the board, that would be awesome. And for everyone who, because I know Julia, I agree, like 2 to 3 weeks out is probably all that we can handle right now. So for everyone that's graduating this semester, let's all appreciate this semester for now. This is just for me thinking forward, but I'm so excited for the seeds that we're going to be planting this semester. This has been in the books for how long now, right? Like since last August, I think, September. So this is wonderful that we're getting the ball rolling. Dr. Chiarella and I actually have a meeting that we have to run to. So we unfortunately have to get off, but if you all want to keep going, feel free. But Tevin and Marvine, thank you so much for hosting this meeting with Psi Chi today. And I'm excited to see everyone March 11th, 12 to 1. My daughter naps at 12, so I'm going to try really hard to make it as soon as I can. But guys, she hasn't been napping well lately, so I might be a little late. But it was so nice seeing all of your faces, and I cannot wait to start on this journey with you guys. Oh my gosh, with you all. And this is being recorded, right? All my mistakes are going on YouTube. No.
It's okay to have regional differences. Don't try to erase it all out of your speech. I used to have a very thick Southern accent when I was younger, and I thought it just didn't sound very intelligent. Very stupid. That was the stupidest thing I did. Get rid of an accent. It's a part of your culture. It's okay.
That's true. People don't believe I'm from New Jersey though, because I don't say Joyzy. So I don't know. So I feel you, Marvine. Accents are an interesting thing. So anyway, all right. Bye, everyone. Dr. Chiarella and I have to go. I didn't mean to speak for you, Dr. Chiarella, but I know you're in that meeting too.
Thank you, Katie. I appreciate it. Love you all. Thank you all. You're fabulous. You're inspiring. I want to go back to school. I never want to leave school, and I've already done that. So, okay.
Bye, everyone.
So with the meeting, so from my understanding, how does everyone feel about for the meeting on March 11th, if I'm understanding correctly, using the information presented in the newsletter? Because on page 3, there's a media highlight section, and just selecting one of those, whichever you feel. I believe there's 2 videos and then 3 podcasts that are already available to choose from, and you just select whichever one is most interesting to you, or you can listen to all of them or just one of them. And then I'm thinking maybe just try, if you can, to write one discussion question that you had after consuming that, and then just kind of bring that to the next meeting. Does anyone else want to add, or does that seem like too much, or have any comment?
Perfect.
And also, I'll figure out how, so at the next meeting, we'll kind of already have what we want to do for the meeting after that. So I'll figure out how to send it out and have it so that you all can submit the works that you're interested in, and we can already have voted on that, or vote at that meeting, or if we can't vote before, so that we have the next meeting kind of already to go at the first meeting. And sorry, this is a lot, but another thing is, I know we talked about in terms of meeting, did we want to meet monthly or twice a month, or what is a kind of meeting that everyone would be comfortable with? Or would that be something that should be voted on as well?
Do you mean for the club or for the board here?
For the actual club.
I would like to see twice a month, but I know that's a lot for people. But at the same time, it may be more accessible or easier for folks to just come to one of the two whenever they can if we have two. So I would like to see two, and then if the board meets once as we collect the responses from this Google form, we could add a Google question on the Google form for people to dump links in for potential media to consume prior to the meetings. And then the board meetings would just be, okay, we have a lot of responses on these two topics. We'll cover these the first meeting and this the second. As that's just an idea.
Yeah, I think having two meetings is good. So that way, like you were saying, if one person can't go to one meeting, they can go to the other. So it gives people the opportunity instead of the one day that you would offer a month. Having two is good.
And so I guess one thing is, would we want, if I'm understanding correctly, would we want to like come up with the material, and then that would be the material for the month, and then the 2 monthly meetings would just be kind of going over different parts of the material. So that way, like if you wanted to listen to a podcast, then you can listen to that for the first meeting and then go back and like listen to something else. Or if you listen to everything, then just kind of save some of the questions for the next meeting or something like that. Does that seem
That
reasonable?
sounds good.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else have anything they would like to add or?
I'm
I
sorry, I
think-
had to step away when you, go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead, Marvin.
I had to step away that you were asking about like when we're going to decide on like the next meeting. Like I think if as long as we're deciding like 2 weeks out, then that's enough time for people to, kind of be able to look at it and make their decision. And it's a lot easier on us as the board, so that we're not getting that pressure of like, okay, now we have to plan a whole month again. We have to plan a whole month each time. We just have to plan the next 2 weeks. So we just plan the next 2 weeks. And I think it might be a little easier for us and for our members.
All right.
Yeah, that's kind of what we do with Psychi. And the idea that each e-board meeting, we plan the next meeting and then have an idea for the meeting after that. And I was just gonna add, as far as communication, so I know right now, technically, the book club is presented by Psychi. So I think, Mandy, if you guys are welcome to use the Google group that we have, but in the future, I think it would definitely be cool if you guys created your own Google group, and then that way you were able to send meeting messages and emails just to the members. That way you guys have like a direct line of communication, and that's something that you could add to the Google form. Just ask for like their name and their email, and then you can add them to a Google group. As far as me, that's all the time I have. I have to head out, so I think I'm going to stop